Let me make you an offer. Hand me your money, your savings, your retirement, the college fund, the inheritance, all of it. And I promise you this, it will grow. Not overnight. I'm not a gambler. Steady. Around 10, 11% a year. Every single year. Up markets, down markets, crashes, booms. Doesn't matter. You will never have a losing year. Ever. Sounds too good to be true, right? Tens of thousands of people didn't think so. They handed this man everything. Famous actors, Hall of Fame athletes, banks, universities, charities that fed the hungry and cured the sick. And for almost 30 years, the checks cleared, the account statements looked beautiful, and everybody got paid. There was just one tiny problem. He never invested a single dollar of it. This is the story of Bernie Madoff, the soft-spoken Wall Street legend who ran the largest financial fraud in human history right out in the open for decades. And it's the story of one man who figured it out years before the end, screamed it from the rooftops to the people whose entire job was to stop it, and got ignored. So how do you steal $65 billion and get the smartest people in the world to thank you for taking it? Here's the part that makes this so unsettling. Bernie Madoff wasn't some shady character lurking in an alley. He was the establishment. He started with nothing. The son of a plumber from Queens, New York. In 1960, he took $5,000 he had saved working as a lifeguard and installing lawn sprinklers, and he started a small trading firm with his own name on the door. And here's the thing, that firm was real. It was good. Madoff was actually a brilliant, genuine pioneer. While everyone else was still shouting orders on a crowded trading floor, he bet everything on computers handling trades instead. He helped build the electronic market that became the Nasdaq stock market, the second biggest stock exchange on Earth. And then, for a time, he became its chairman. Think about that. The man who would commit the biggest investment fraud in history was, on paper, one of the most trusted figures in American finance. He advised regulators. He sat on committees. When Wall Street wanted to know how the future of trading should work, they asked Bernie. So remember that one word, because it's the only thing he ever truly sold. Not stocks, not strategy, trust. Now, the legitimate trading business sitting in plain sight, that wasn't the scam. The scam lived quietly upstairs, in a separate operation almost nobody was allowed to see. The investment business. The one where Bernie personally managed money for a hand-picked list of clients. And the returns on that money were magical. While the rest of the market lurched up and down like a roller coaster, Madoff's clients got a smooth, gentle climb. 10%, 11%, year after year after year, almost never a loss, barely even a bad month. When the market crashed, Bernie's people somehow still made money. To an outsider, it looked like genius. To anyone who understood markets, it should have looked impossible, because it was. But that's not how people saw it. They saw a sure thing. And here's the truly diabolical part. His masterstroke. Madoff didn't chase clients. He turned them away. He made it exclusive. You couldn't just invest with Bernie Madoff. You had to be invited. You had to know somebody. He'd act reluctant, like he was doing you a personal favor, by taking your millions. And what happens when you tell rich, powerful people they can't have something? They want it more than anything in the world. Word spread through country clubs and charity galas and family dinners. He targeted tight-knit communities where one person's word was gold. If your trusted friend was making steady money with Bernie, and Bernie was hard to get into, you didn't ask hard questions. You begged to be let in. People practically lined up to hand over their life savings and felt lucky he said yes. Let's pause right here and do something fun. Let's actually try to catch him. Because if you and I can spot the problem in the next 60 seconds, you'll understand why the next part of this story is so infuriating. Here's the only clue you need. The returns were too smooth. Real investing is messy. Some years you win big, some years you lose, some years are flat. That's just reality. But Madoff reported gentle, steady gains almost every single month for decades, like a heartbeat that never skips. In the real world, that doesn't happen. It can't. It's like a basketball player claiming he's made every single free throw he's ever taken for 30 years, in the rain, blindfolded. You just did, in 1 minute, what an army of bankers, regulators, and billionaires somehow couldn't do in 30 years. So, how did he get away with it for so long? There were 3 reasons, and the third one is the most disturbing, because it means somebody could have stopped this whole thing back in the year 2000 and chose not to. Reason 1. Reason 1 is the oldest trick in the book. It's called a Ponzi scheme, and once you see how it works, you'll see it everywhere. It's beautifully simple. You take money from a new investor. You don't invest it, you just keep it. Then, when an older investor wants their returns, you pay them using the new person's money. Round and round it goes. As long as more money is flowing in than flowing out, the magic never breaks. The early investors get real cash and rave to their friends. Those friends pile in. Their money pays the next round of withdrawals. Everyone's happy. Everyone's rich. On paper. But a Ponzi scheme is a shark. It has to keep moving, or it dies. The moment more people want their money out than there are new people putting money in, the whole thing collapses in an instant. There's nothing underneath it. No investments, no stocks. Just a river of other people's cash and a very confident man standing in the middle of it. Madoff's river ran for decades, which brings us to reason 2. The machine that kept it hidden. Madoff didn't do this alone, and he didn't do it with magic. He did it with a fake factory. On a separate floor of his office, a small, loyal team did just one job: manufacture lies. They generated account statements showing trades that never happened. Beautiful, detailed, totally fictional. A client could call and ask about their portfolio, and the team would read back specific stock prices and profits, all invented. The trades looked so real that almost nobody thought to check whether they had actually occurred in the real market. And if they had checked the central record where every genuine trade in America is logged, they would have found nothing. Because nothing was ever bought. Nothing was ever sold. And who was supposed to verify all of this? Who audited the books of a company managing tens of billions of dollars? A tiny accounting firm. 3 people, operating out of a small office, with one of the accountants reportedly a retired man living in Florida. A multi-billion-dollar empire, signed off by a shop you could fit in a closet. That alone should have ended it. It was a screaming red flag, and someone did see it. Which brings us to reason 3, and to the hero of this story almost nobody knows the name of. His name was Harry Markopolos, and he is the reason this story should make you angry. Markopolos was a numbers guy at a rival firm, and one day his bosses handed him Madoff's results and basically said, "Copy this, make us returns like Bernie's." So Harry sat down to reverse engineer the strategy. It took him about 5 minutes to get suspicious. It took him a few hours to become certain. The numbers were not just unlikely, they were mathematically impossible. The strategy Madoff claimed to use simply could not produce those results. There wasn't even enough of the right product trading in the entire market for Madoff to be doing what he said he was doing. So Harry Markopolos did the responsible thing. He went to the watchdog, the government agency whose entire purpose is to catch exactly this kind of fraud, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And he didn't just hint. In 2005, he handed them a detailed report. The title said it all. He flatly told them this was the largest fraud in the world, and the commission did almost nothing. They poked around. They asked Madoff a few questions. Madoff, the former chairman of a major stock exchange, charmed them, handed over some paperwork, and they went away. They cleared him. More than once. Harry warned them in 2000, and 2001, and 2005, and 2007. For roughly 9 years, one man was waving his arms and shouting that this was a catastrophe waiting to happen, and the people with the power to stop it filed his warnings in a drawer. So the fraud didn't end because the system caught it. The fraud ended because of something nobody could control. The year was 2008. The global financial crisis hit, and the whole world panicked. Markets crashed. And when people get scared, they do one thing. They pull their money out and hold it tight. Madoff's investors were no different. Suddenly, instead of pouring money in, they were lining up to take it out. Billions of dollars in withdrawal requests landed on his desk. Reportedly around $7 billion he simply did not have, because it had never existed in the first place. The river had reversed, and the shark was dying. For a few desperate weeks, Madoff scrambled, trying to pull in fresh cash to plug the hole. But it was over, and he knew it. So in December of 2008, Bernie Madoff sat down his 2 adult sons, who worked at the legitimate side of the firm, and he confessed. He told them the entire investment business was, in his own words, one big lie. A giant Ponzi scheme, decades of it, tens of billions of dollars, gone. And his sons did something extraordinary. They turned in their own father. The very next day, federal agents arrived at his apartment. Bernie Madoff was arrested. The largest fraud in the history of money was finally over. Now, here's a detail that made the whole country furious. While he waited for his trial, Madoff wasn't thrown in a cell. A judge let him stay home, and home was a multi-million-dollar penthouse in Manhattan. So the man who had wiped out charities and pensioners and entire families spent those months under house arrest, wearing an ankle monitor, in a luxury apartment in the sky. It didn't last. In March of 2009, Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies. There was no plea deal, no cooperation discount. And in June of 2009, the judge handed down the sentence: 150 years in prison. For a 70-year-old man, it was a number designed to send a message. He would die behind bars, and everyone in that courtroom knew it. But the prison sentence isn't really the tragedy. This is the part people don't talk about enough. The damage Madoff did wasn't measured in dollars on a spreadsheet. It was measured in lives. People who had handed him their entire retirement woke up to discover it had never been real. Elderly couples went back to work in their 80s. Charities that helped the most vulnerable people in the world shut their doors overnight. Some victims, crushed by the loss and the shame, took their own lives. And the wreckage reached his own family. 2 years to the day after the arrest, Madoff's elder son, Mark, died by suicide. His younger son died of cancer a few years later. Whatever Bernie Madoff thought he was building, in the end, it consumed the people closest to him too. There is one piece of light in all of this. A court-appointed lawyer named Irving Picard spent years hunting down the money, clawing it back from people who had pulled out more than they put in, and chasing it across the globe. And against all odds, he recovered the majority of the actual cash that real victims had lost. Not all of it, but far more than anyone believed was possible. For thousands of families, it was a lifeline. Bernie Madoff died in prison in April of 2021 at the age of 82. He never expressed much that sounded like real remorse. So what's the lesson here? Because it isn't really about high finance. Madoff didn't win because he was a financial genius. The scheme itself was crude, the same trick a con artist might run in a parking lot, just scaled up to billions. He won because he understood people. He understood that we want to believe in the sure thing, that we trust the calm, confident expert in the nice suit, and that the easiest person in the world to fool is the one who's afraid of missing out. Remember the offer from the start of this video? The steady returns, every year, never a loss, but only if you're special enough to get in? That offer is the oldest lie in the world. And the single most valuable thing you can take away from Bernie Madoff is this. When someone promises you a reward with no risk, when they tell you you simply cannot lose, that is not the sound of opportunity. That's the sound of the river starting to flow.